Wife said, "My ex is back and wants to meet. You don't need the details." I replied, "Sure." I canceled our trip and flew out alone. 3 days later, she texted, "Where are you?" I sent a beach selfie with another woman. I didn't even plan on doing it. Not originally. Not when she first dropped that sentence so casually while rinsing out her coffee mug like she was telling me she needed to pick up groceries. And not when she brushed past me with that tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. I remember standing there, coffee turning cold in my hand, thinking, what the hell is happening to my marriage? My name is Daniel Hart, 34, and my wife, well, soon-to-be ex-wife, Lena, 32, had been growing distant for months. Not cold, not hostile, just elsewhere, staring at her phone more, guarding it, stepping out of rooms to take calls, telling me she was tired or stressed or overwhelmed with work. But every excuse had a tone that felt rehearsed. I kept telling myself it was normal. Couples go through phases. People get burnout. But that morning when she said, "My ex is back and wants to meet," and followed it up with, "You don't need the details," something inside me clicked in a way I didn't like. It wasn't even jealousy. It was the way she dismissed me, like my feelings weren't relevant, like I was a footnote in my own marriage. I replied, "Sure," because fighting felt pointless at that moment. She'd already decided everything. My opinion wasn't being considered. I canceled our trip, the weekend getaway to Santa Fe I'd been planning for weeks, because I thought maybe what we needed was quality time, something intimate, something grounding. But she didn't even blink when I told her I had work stuff, and the trip was off. She didn't ask for details. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't even pretend to be disappointed. That alone told me everything. So I changed the plan, packed my bags, booked a flight to Miami, flew out alone, and landed in a place where the sun felt like a reset button and the noise of strangers felt better than the quiet tension that had filled our home for months. The first day I just walked barefoot on the beach, wondering how the hell we got here. The second day, I finally answered a message I'd ignored for years. Well, more like responded to a person I ghosted emotionally, not romantically. Ava, a woman I knew from college, happened to live in Miami. We had never dated, never crossed lines, but she was the kind of person who radiated warmth. She saw my post about being in Florida and messaged, damn, long time. If you want to catch up, let me know." So I did, not out of revenge. Not at first. Mostly because I felt lonely and angry and tired pretending everything at home was fine. While I was sitting in an outdoor cafe with her, laughing for the first time in months, Lena finally texted, "Where are you?" No explanation about her ex. No apology for vanishing for 3 days. No concern. Just annoyance, like I was inconveniencing her by not being available whenever she wanted me. Something snapped. I took a beach selfie with Ava in the frame. Not touching, not intimate, just two people smiling, and sent it. 5 seconds later. Who the hell is that? And I swear to God, I just stare at the screen thinking, oh, now you care? Now you want details? I wrote back, someone who wanted to see me. I didn't think you'd need the details. Then I turned my phone off. That moment was revenge, at least not consciously. It was clarity. All the nights she brushed me off. All the times she told me I was overreacting. All the times she made me feel paranoid for noticing her pulling away. But when I powered my phone on later, the storm that hit was unreal. Missed calls, long texts, short texts, voice messages ranging from angry to crying to furious again. Dan, please call me. Why are you doing this? Who is that woman? We need to talk now. You're being cruel. I didn't do anything wrong. I can't believe you're trying to hurt me. Not a single message explaining who her ex was. Not one detail she insisted I didn't need. Instead, she acted like my taking a photo with a friend was an act of war. The irony, honestly, was laughable. That night, I sat on the hotel balcony, watching the waves crash, thinking about our marriage in a way I hadn't allowed myself to before. I remembered how we met. Lena working as a server at a bar I used to go with my coworkers, her smile wide and wild and irresistible. She was spontaneous, passionate, full of energy that pulled you in like a riptide. And for years, that energy felt like everything I ever wanted. But somewhere along the way, it shifted. Or maybe it never shifted. Maybe I just didn't notice what was beneath it. She liked attention. She liked validation. She liked to feel wanted. And she hated feeling ignored. So when her ex suddenly resurfaced, Aaron, I later learned after putting the pieces together, it made sense. They had a long, messy history full of breakups and reunions. The kind where the highs were blinding and the lows were catastrophic. He was the kind of guy she never fully let go of emotionally. The kind of guy who texted, "I miss you," at 2 a.m. years later and got a response. I knew that now in a way I didn't before. But she still wouldn't admit anything. When I finally called her the next morning, she answered on the first ring, breath shaky. "Dan, what is going on?" "You tell me." I said. "How was meeting Aaron?" Silence. A long one. "We didn't do anything," she whispered. "I didn't ask what you did. I asked how it was." Another silence. Then, "Why are you acting like this?" "Because you told me I didn't need details," I said. "So I assumed you didn't want any either." The truth is, hearing her breathe on the line, hearing the panic in her voice, made me feel something I wasn't proud of: validation, the kind she denied me for months. But beneath that was something heavier: sadness, exhaustion, realizing I'd been running after someone who'd been emotionally elsewhere long before Miami. She started crying, saying she was confused, saying she didn't want to lose me, saying she didn't know what she was doing. She asked about Ava. "She's a friend," I said. "A friend I haven't had to beg for attention from." That line hit her hard. "Please," she said, "just come home and we can talk." But when I flew home 2 days later, suitcase heavy and stomach twisted, something already felt over. In our living room, she looked smaller, fragile, like she'd rehearsed 100 speeches but forgot all of them. "I didn't cheat," she said immediately. "I swear I didn't cheat. I wanted to see him because part of me felt unfinished." "And what about us?" I asked. "Are we finished?" She shook her head quickly. "No. I love you. I want you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to push you away. I didn't mean for anything to get this far." But her words felt like smoke, visible but impossible to hold. For weeks, I tried. I actually tried. Couples therapy, long talks, removing assumptions, rebuilding trust. But every time I looked at her phone on the counter, every time she stepped into another room to take a call, every time she said, "It's just work," something inside me twisted. Trust once cracked doesn't reform easily. And one night, when she thought I was asleep, I heard her crying quietly in the hallway, whispering something like, "Why did I ruin everything?" That's when I realized she wasn't choosing me. She was mourning the idea of losing me. There's a difference. Eventually, I filed for divorce. Not out of anger, but out of acceptance. The weirdest part? She didn't fight it. She cried. She blamed herself. She apologized over and over. But she didn't fight. And that told me she wasn't fully in anymore anyway. As for Ava, no, we're not together. We're friends. Real friends. She helped me stay sane through all this. She reminded me what it felt like to be seen instead of tolerated, appreciated instead of taken for granted. But that's it. I'm not ready for anything more, not after the emotional wreckage of the past year. Sometimes I still think about that moment on the beach, when the sun felt warm and the breeze felt soft, and I realized I didn't have to stay in a marriage where I felt like a placeholder. Sometimes you reach a breaking point not because you stop loving someone, but because you finally start loving yourself enough to leave. And that's what Miami was for me. Not revenge, not rebellion, clarity. If you read all this, thanks for listening. I didn't plan to blow up my marriage, but I also didn't plan on being treated like an afterthought. And maybe, just maybe, the selfie that started a war was really just the first honest reflection of how lonely I'd been for a long time. And loneliness is a strange thing, because you don't notice how deep it's gotten until someone else shines a light on it. And suddenly you're staring at a version of yourself you barely recognize. After the divorce papers were filed, our house turned into this quiet battlefield where nothing dramatic happened, but everything felt charged. Lena moved into the guest room. She claimed it was temporary, but both of us silently understood the truth. People don't sleep apart because of temporary problems. I'd hear her pacing at night, opening drawers, closing them, sitting on the floor like she was trying to piece together the parts of her life she'd scattered. Sometimes she would knock softly on my door and ask if we could talk, and sometimes I let her. Those conversations were always messy, apologies layered over confusion, sadness laced with longing, and her voice trembling like she was fighting her own guilt every second. She'd say things like, "I don't know why I needed to see him," or, "I think I just want to feel wanted again." And I'd sit there trying to swallow the sting of that, because I had wanted her. I had chosen her. I had loved her in the steady, consistent way she always claimed she wanted in a partner. But maybe that steadiness felt boring to her. Maybe the chaos of her past relationships made her crave a kind of emotional roller coaster I never intended to provide. One night, she confessed something that stuck with me far longer than anything else. She said, "I think I pushed you away because I didn't think I deserved you." And I swear, that sentence cut deeper than any accusation or lie would have, because it meant she didn't sabotage us on purpose. She sabotaged us because she didn't know how to exist in something healthy. And that made me angry in a new way. Not at her, but at the version of myself that kept trying to fix things that weren't mine to fix. She cried a lot during those weeks. I wasn't used to seeing her cry. Lena was always the strong one, the one who made decisions in a split second, the one who handled emergencies with this fierce determination. But now she'd break down in the kitchen over a coffee mug, or crumble on the couch while we sorted paperwork, or stare out the window with red eyes like she was reliving every mistake in slow motion. I tried to comfort her at first. Old habits die hard. I'd put a hand on her shoulder or sit beside her until she calmed down. But the more I tried to soothe her, the more I felt like I was lying to her and to myself. Because I wasn't her husband anymore, not in the emotional sense. I was just the last person she had before everything fell apart. The night before she officially moved out, she asked me if we could sit outside on the porch. It was cold, and the sky was this heavy, dim blue that looked like it was holding back rain. She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering a little. "Do you hate me?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know, but because I didn't want to say something cruel. "No," I finally said, "I don't hate you. I just can't keep losing myself trying to carry both of us." She nodded like she'd been expecting that exact sentence. Then she whispered, "I loved you. I really did." Past tense. I don't think she realized she said it that way. Or maybe she did, and it was the only truth she had left. The next morning, she packed her remaining boxes. I helped her carry them to her car. The driveway felt like a departure gate at an airport, somewhere you say goodbye to a life you're not sure you'll ever return to. When she shut the trunk, she hugged me. Not a passionate, emotional embrace. Just a long, tired, lingering hug of two people who had tried and failed. "I'm sorry," she said again, resting her head on my shoulder like she used to when things were good. "I wish I had been better." "Me too," I said, even though I wasn't sure if I meant that. She pulled away first, wiped her eyes, and drove off without looking back. The house was unbearably quiet after she left. I tried to distract myself, cleaning, working, reorganizing shelves, but everything I touched had memories attached to it. The couch where we'd watch movies. The kitchen counter where she tried to make pancakes and almost set the smoke alarm off. The spot by the window where she used to drink her morning coffee before work. Our life was imprinted in everything. Like fingerprints I couldn't wipe off no matter how hard I tried. Days turned into weeks. People eventually found out. Friends, co-workers, even neighbors who suddenly became very curious about my personal life. Some offered support. Some offered advice. Some offered judgment disguised as sympathy. "Relationships take work," one co-worker said. "You shouldn't give up so easily." I wanted to laugh in his face. As if I hadn't spent months drowning myself in effort while she drifted further away. The only person who didn't treat me like a broken object was Ava. She didn't pry. She didn't force advice. She didn't ask for the story behind every tear or silence. She just showed up in small ways, sending a funny video when I seemed down, checking in without pressure, reminding me that the world didn't end just because one relationship did. We talked more often, eventually daily. Not romantically, just comfortably. Real connection without the weight of expectations. One afternoon, she called me out of the blue and said, "You sound like you're suffocating. Come visit again." I laughed, telling her I couldn't just run to Miami every time life got overwhelming. But she said, "Dan, you spent years choosing someone who didn't choose you back. Pick yourself for once." That sentence stuck with me. So I did go, and it wasn't a dramatic escape or some symbolic reclamation of freedom. It was just breathing, being somewhere that wasn't haunted by memories. We walked along the shoreline, grabbed tacos from a food truck, sat on the sand watching the tide come in. I told her things I hadn't told anyone, not even Lena, and she listened, not because she felt obligated, but because she cared. At one point, she nudged me gently and said, "You know, you're not unlovable just because someone didn't love you right." And damn, that hit hard. I didn't realize how much I needed someone to say that out loud. When I flew back home, I felt lighter. Not healed, not over everything, just lighter, enough to start rebuilding. I enrolled in a woodworking class, started running again, cooked actual meals instead of living off takeout. Slowly, I got used to being alone, not lonely, just alone. A surprisingly peaceful difference. Meanwhile, Lena sent me a few messages, updates about changing her address, questions about taxes, and once a long apology I didn't respond to because there was nothing left to fix. I learned through a mutual friend that things with her ex crashed and burned within weeks. I wasn't surprised. Some people chase closure in the wrong places and find new wounds instead. I didn't feel joy hearing that. Just sadness. Not for us, but for her. Because she had so much potential to be a better version of herself, she just didn't reach for it in time. Months passed. Enough time that I stopped flinching when I saw a photo of us in my camera roll. Enough time that I could drive past a cafe where we had our first date without feeling like someone punched me in the chest. Enough time that when I woke up in the morning, the first thought wasn't about her anymore. And one quiet Sunday evening, I realized something. I didn't regret the marriage. I didn't regret the pain. I didn't regret the end. Because all of it shaped me into someone who finally knew his own worth. Someone who wouldn't settle for being an afterthought ever again. And that, in its own strange way, felt like the first honest beginning I'd had in years.